Design thinking is a problem solving approach. So design thinking is a marriage of both analytical thinking as well as intuitive thinking. V edit, V stands for visualize, E stands for empathize, D stands for define, I stands for ideate and prototype, and T stands for test. Design thinking never gives you a ready-made solution. Design thinking, in my view, I always mix behavior theory with design thinking. That makes it more effective. So that is what the way in which I usually do it. Design thinking, it's a buzzword today. Wherever you go, you can see a lot of trainers who are actually been practicing design thinking. And nowadays you can see companies in India, academic institutions in India. In fact, I think CBSE has asked schools to imbibe design thinking into a curriculum. That's what my knowledge is. I am an advisor for one CBSE school in Kerala, in Thrissur. I'm from Thrissur, so I know. What is design thinking is the first question. It's not rocket science. That's what the first thing I have to tell you. It's not rocket science. And is it a very novel concept? Believe me, it's not a novel concept. It has been in use, but nobody knows what exactly it is, and nobody knew the step-by-step procedure of how it is to be done. But as leaders, every day we are facing problems and challenges. In fact, I never use the word problem. It's my mistake. I always use the term challenge. When the moment we say challenge, our mindset changes. When the moment we say problem, it is actually a negative connotation. So I don't like using the term problems. These are all challenges. So you are people who face multiple challenges a day, and that too intergenerational problems. You can see what the older generation was, and for me as a teacher in a postgraduate institute like Rajagiri School, College of Social Sciences or Rajagiri Business School, it is a little bit easy for us. But considering you in a school and the energy level of the kids that they are coming over there, and the raw talent and the raw thought process they have, it is always a huge challenge for all of us. And what is design thinking basically? Design thinking is a problem solving approach. This is what everybody knows. Apart from that, is it a problem solving approach? Or is it provide you with ready-made problems? Like if you go to a doctor, they give you a medicine. Okay, they look at your symptoms and give you a medicine. So there is a ready-made solution for it. Design thinking never gives you a ready-made solution. It is an iterative process. And most importantly, it is a human-centered process. Design thinking is best known for solving what we call as wicked problems. And in academics, if you ask me, we are always facing wicked problems. Wicked problems are the problems that don't have a direct solution. You look at your each and every institution you have. Every day you have problems. Do we have a direct solution for it? Yes, obviously we can take solutions. I agree to that. But are we sure that the solution that or the decision that we take are the optimal decisions? Not sure. So, but we take decisions. So this is how we usually go. And design thinking basically helps you to solve these wicked problems. The prevailing, so I'm just moving on to, if you ask me again, one more aspect of design thinking, if you ask me, design thinking have three facets. Naisi was actually introduced in the introduction. She was telling about the stages of design thinking. Uh, if you ask me, most important is we have to understand design thinking as a mindset. If the mindset is set, then you can become a design thinker who can make use of the process. So usually what I say is that be or have cultivate a design thinking mindset first, then learn the process, and then try to use it as a tool to solve your problems. This is what the way in which we have to see design thinking. So why mindset and what mindset is? Then I have to take you to the prevailing thought processes that we have. We have the two extremes of thinking that we have, that we follow by virtue. By birth, we have seen this. Our parents are doing such a thinking process, and wherever you go, it got more traction than whatever we say. So we are also following the same. One such thinking is what we call analytical thinking. We need data. We look into, we call it as like what the doctor is diagnosing, we call it as uh, deductive reasoning. We go for deductive reasoning. So we try to rule out all the possibilities and finally say that, okay, this is what the decision is. Or we go for inductive. Inductive means we will predict. Last year, this time, this has happened. So this year also, it may repeat. So these are the one extreme point of view, that is we go for analytical reasoning. And the second extreme is what we call an intuitive thinking. Intuitions. We take decisions out of intuitions. And we always say intuitive thinking is best suited for creative minds. Those bring in, the artists, or in fact, you go to how the movies are made, how creative they are. Or you go to A.R. Rahman. A.R. Rahman is a very creative person. Similarly, such people usually have something called an intuitive thinking. So these are the two extremes of thought process that we have. But what we require in design thinking is the middle of the road approach. So design thinking is a marriage of both analytical thinking as well as intuitive thinking. That implies we need data, but we must not rely fully on data. On the other hand, you need a little bit of intuition or creativity. I'm taking out the word intuition, I'm using the term creativity. We need a set of creativity in order to solve problems. In a layman's language, or maybe in the jargons that we normally use, is the out of the box thinking. But this out of the box, I'll just be more specific into it. That is, out of the box is just one way of thinking. But what I say is that multiple ways of thinking happens only if creativity merges with data. Okay, so we have to nurture that mindset first. Now, to become a design thinker, even if as per I'm quoting two point of views of a famous author, Carol Dweck, in her book called Mindset. That's a beautiful book. I hope some of you might have read it. Otherwise, you can even purchase and read it. It's worth reading. Carol Dweck has coined two terminologies or two types of mindset that usually people should have, or people normally have. One is what we call a fixed mindset, and the other one is what we call a growth mindset. So what is a fixed mindset and what is a growth mindset? Fixed mindset is with people, or you can see a lot of people who always be happy with the status quo. They don't want to take challenges. They never love feedbacks. and criticisms. And the more danger is that they take everything too personal. People with such mindset are usually, we call them as people with fixed mindset. And growth mindset is the other extreme. See, I always talk with the extremes. The other extreme is the growth mindset. Growth mindset always talks about they are happy embracing challenges. They love to fail so that they can learn. Failure always they takes as, okay, it's an opportunity for me to learn. They never take criticisms personal. So these are the two extremes. Now, to become a design thinker, or if you want to embrace design thinking in your life, the journey must be towards growth mindset. There is a questionnaire which is available. In fact, it is available in the public domain also, about a Carol Dweck's questionnaire of fixed mindset with growth mindset. If at all you get a chance, please download it and try to fill it by yourself. When you download it, the scoring also will come together. Don't look at the scorings first, just fill it and then look at the scorings and try to understand what the mindset is. Now, I said the journey must be towards growth mindset, but I will never blame anybody having a particular mindset. Fixed mindset, if I have a fixed mindset, I am not here to blame. The reason is, it is not your fault. Fixed mindset comes when we have patterned decision making. And when we have this patterned decision making, when we are doing a job continuously for several years. So as an academician, I have been teaching for the past 20 years. Unless I deliberately try to understand what exactly I'm thinking or what my thought process is, normally I will get fixated. This fixation, to some extent, are our biases. So that restricts us from moving ahead. Fixed mindset, even if it's a growth mindset, please understand. When you look into the how we nurture a growth mindset, please understand, fixed mindset or whatever it may be, we usually have something called a stance. We take a stance. You see the world, according to you, you have a meaning to the world. So that stance is what reflecting in your mindset. Okay, so is there any harm in taking a stance? There is no harm in taking a stance, because that's what we get. For example, if a small little boy is living in a family where husband and wife, maybe their father and mother is always fighting. Because why I just gave this example is that one of the biggest concerns for the kids nowadays, even who are studying here in the postgraduate level also, when we talk to them, one of the reasons why they have some problems in their life is because of this. They see the world in a different way. That is what their stance is. Now what happens is, they choose the tools. The stance usually guides the tools. For example, I'm using technical terms, don't worry, this is not so technical. I have a stance, and then my observation and my imagination and whatever I configure in my life are all based upon my stance. Okay. And then what happens is, so I look at the world in one way. So these kids, when they grow up, I have seen a lot of people who say that I don't want to marry. I don't like marriages. Or they don't like the opposite sex. The reason is that this is what they have made and this is what their stance is. And when they observe, they see only in that stance. And slowly what happens is that how you nurture us, If you identify people like this, and if you feel you are such a person having a fixed mindset, what has to be done is basically gain experience. So if you put them into different experiences, what happens is they experience a new thing and their stance changes. So now I'm coming back to fixed and growth mindset. Fixed mindset is basically, as I told you, it is because of a stance that you take. So in order to nurture a growth mindset, what you have to do is gain maximum experience, exposure, experience. You have a personal, we have a personal life as well as an academic life. Academic life, we have enough and enough experiences. In personal life, again, when you look into your family, you have a set of experiences. I am asking you to go beyond that. And experiences beyond your family, beyond your academic life, gain more and more experience. One simple way of gaining experience is traveling. Once we travel more, you gain more experiences. These experiences can basically change your stance, and that's how your mindset changes. Another simple technique is reading. Unless we read, reading obviously is the best thing that we can do. Reading also helps you to change your stance. So, what I am trying to tell you is design thinking has to be conceived as a mindset, and you have to internalize it. In the later part of this particular session, I may tell you about the different stages of this. But these stages, what I request you is to you just internalize it. Internalizing is so important, and you have to visualize it. That's how you can change the mindset. So growth mindset is something which is ideal to become a design thinker. Okay. Now, why importance of this? For when I discuss about this, the most important element apart from this mindset, or which contributes to this mindset, is what we call emotional intelligence. You take any design thinking course, any design thinking program, it is mandatory that they teach you emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is a different topic altogether, but they always teach you Daniel Goleman's emotional intelligence framework. It talks about empathy, it talks about social skills, it talks about self awareness, it talks about self regulation, and it talks about motivation. I'm not going deeper into all these, but emotional intelligence is something which is so important. The reason is we are dealing human centered problems, and we are always with human beings. So, design thinkers, uh, before I move on to the next thing, I'm just putting it in a nutshell. Design thinking basically is an iterative process which solve wicked problems, mostly are human centered in nature. Okay, it's a mindset, it's a process, and it's a tool. The first priority is obviously for developing a design thinking mindset. So, for that, always gain more and more experiences. So the mindset is fixed mindset and growth mindset. And for having a journey from fixed to, we always in a continuum. I told you to check your what I say scores in the questionnaire. If you do it, I'll tell you majority of you will be in a continuum. Okay. In my experience for the past 2 years, I have administered it to this questionnaire to around maybe more than 500 to 600 people. I have administered it. My experience is that majority of the people are in the continuum. There are only very few people who have gone to the strong fixed mindset. Rest all are in the continuum. That means we are on the right track. Only thing is you have to move towards the growth mindset. For that, the tip is experience, gaining more and more exposure, plus reading. If these two are the simple techniques, if we do these two, we can change our stance, and we usually can become good design thinkers. So this is a mindset you have to develop. And I always stress upon this. This word this mindset, I may repeat several times. The reason is that this is at least once you move out of this room, you must remember this mindset. Design thinking is a mindset. At least this terminology you must remember. That is why I'm repeating it again and again. Now, and then one more aspect I told you is you must be emotionally intelligent. Okay. Now, why design thinking in academic leadership? As we all know, the world is challenging. We don't know what will happen in future. After Trump became the president of US, you know what all things are happening in this world. We don't know whether this will have any repercussion in our academic field. We are not sure. And then as I told you, it's very dynamic, ever changing. AI came, all our assignments, everything. Now we have to come out with policies for AI policies. Because kids are very smart. They use ChatGPT, generative AI, everything is there. It's very difficult for us to give us an assignment in the school or in anywhere. Even if you give a project, everything AI gives you, it's very easy for them to do it. So that's a challenging scenario we have. And how will we impart education to them? That's a question. And most importantly, majority of the academicians face an intergenerational conflict. They come in a different generation. And every time you look at the people, every year you see, they are all different. Just before this session, I was just talking to some of the students over there. And they are simply admitting that they are not able to view the world outside. They admit it. That's how the world is. So imagine what the level of the kids that you in your school level, how they will be tackled. I'm a father of two kids. My son is just doing his fifth standard, and my daughter is the second standard. I'm a person who observe them. I love observation. I love behavioral change and all these things. I used to observe them. They are living in a Instamart world. So they want everything to get in 10 minutes. They never bother. In our days, we bother when we have to take something, when the teacher asks something, you have to bring something to school tomorrow. If I forget to say this to my parents, I am very much worried, and I always be afraid to tell them, because definitely they will scold you, and in fact they may beat you. Scolding and beating is nothing, is out of picture right now. Scolding itself, the kids are not worried. Last day, I just remember my son told me he wanted to take some chart paper to school. He forgot. The 9:30 in the night, he was telling, "Oh, I want to take chart papers tomorrow." And I said, "This is the time you are telling." He said he was very cool, and he told me that, "Why are you worrying? Order in Instamart." It's a simple thing that the generation is. So your challenges are big. We are in, what I say, it's something like a Herculean task for all of us. So that is the importance of design thinking here. Okay. Now, when you look into what is the process of design thinking. Okay. In the process of design thinking, as Naisi was in the introduction, she said, the various stages of design thinking starts from empathize, define, ideate, prototype, and test. Very easy to say, but very difficult to do. That's why I said the mindset is so important and internalizing it is so important. But here in Rajagiri Center for Design Thinking, I have actually gone through various design thinking programs across the globe, and I have added one more stage, and I have just coined a module for design thinking here. I call it as V Edit, and I have given a caption like Edit the Mindset. So I focus only more on the mindset. So V edit stands for V visualize, and the rest are the same. E empathize, D for define, I for ideate and prototype, and T for test. This is how I have coined it. So in academic leadership, I know how difficult the life of a principal in a school is. And see, the most of the time when I look into observe these people, they are spending time on trivial issues. That will be the biggest problem that you all face. You are spending time on trivial issues. So what happens is, like the old saying, you miss the forest to the trees. You're all focusing on the trees, everyday problems, every day this comes, that comes, every day we are just looking into this, and we usually miss the forest. And then what happens is, whenever a disruption happens, we become underprepared. So that's why I just introduced the first stage in our module is what we call visualization. Somebody asked me to repeat the acronym. I'm just repeating it. V edit. V stands for visualize. E stands for empathize. D stands for define. I stands for ideate and prototype. And T stands for test. So this is what the acronym is. Okay. So we, as leaders of the schools, we never get time to visualize the future, and we miss. When COVID came, it was a drastic disruption, you all know. uh, we all talk about new normal, but if you ask me, I always say that it is never normal. This is what the scenario is. We have an old normal, we have a new normal, but please take it from me, we are living in a world which is never normal. There is nothing called normalcy right now. Everyday disruptions are coming. Everyday disruptions are coming. Last day I have seen a particular advertisement where it was actually not. It was a marketing gimmick, but still thoughts are coming that in 10 minutes of time, Zepto will deliver you a car. This was the ad. Okay, it was an online video in association with Skoda. Skoda was telling in Zepto they were giving a car in 10 minutes. And then continuing with that particular ad, Zepto CEO said, it's not like that. Not for now, we are delivering cars for 10 minutes. But anyway, what we can give in 10 minutes is a test drive. So imagine you can get a test drive for 10 minutes. That is how the world is changing. Now, one more discovery I'll tell you. This happened. This video is viral in YouTube. You just check it. Very recently, in Africa, one person has invented a new technology. The technology is that you don't want any fossil fuels or any fuel or any energy in future. Electricity is not required. He has invented a technology that convert radio waves into energy. So you don't need any electricity anymore, because radio waves, they convert. If you have that particular technology, cars don't need petrol or diesel or EV, nothing is required. That is what the world is. Imagine our generation will be living in that world. You are teaching students from uh, kindergarten to higher secondary. Imagine a boy which is a boy or a girl, a kid which joins in the kindergarten. After 15 years, when he pass out of the school, what will be the world? And are we preparing for that? That is what's so important. So in design thinking, visualizing usually talks about this. It asks you to spend time to visualize. So in design thinking workshops that I conduct, usually what I do is that the first part of my session is, visualizing your industry, whatever it may be, in the next 10 years. This gives an idea of what I have to do. So as academic leaders, this visualization is so important that we never does. Once you visualize this, you know what is the direction in which I have to move. Then comes the next stage that we normally call empathy. I can simply say empathy and say that you do this, you do that. But take it from me, my dear friends, the most difficult stage in design thinking is empathy. How I empathize. Empathy, you all know what the definition is: stepping into the shoes of others and thinking. That's beautiful. But B, am I warning us, the disclaimer or a warning us, don't step onto their shoes. That's what we usually do. And most importantly, step out of your shoes. That's what empathy is. We never do that. It's very difficult because we have this something called a fundamental attribution bias. Fundamental attribution bias, you may be knowing that I always, whatever I can do, others also can do. Oh, I am like this, and why this man is not like this? This is what we usually say. And we are very good in sympathizing with people, but empathizing is so difficult. So as a leader, you must look into, as a leader, you have a set of stakeholders with you. Empathizing the stakeholder is so difficult and so important. Student is a stakeholder, parent is a stakeholder, your management is a stakeholder, and there are other stakeholders also. The government is a stakeholder, and out of which you may have some dangerous stakeholders, some dormant stakeholders. They may not come very often, but some problem comes, they will come to you. For example, police. Police is a dormant stakeholder. The moment some complaint goes, they will come. So these are something which you have to, so empathizing the stakeholders is so difficult. So in design thinking, what we usually say is that for empathizing, you must be at the highest level of listening. There are different levels of listening. You can just think about you. The first level of listening is looking at their lips. The moment they are shutting their lips, you will start talking. We usually do that. The second level is waiting for the pause. So when somebody in a discussion, they are they may be accidentally have paused it, but the moment you see a pause, you start coming out with your views. And these two, you are never listening to them. And then comes active listening. Active listening means you just listen to them, but there is no emotion, nothing is there. You just listen. When they stops, you will go with that. And then comes a reflective listening. You listen to them and reflect to what they have said. What I have seen in majority of my clients, and majority, in fact, sometimes in my own case also, what I have seen is we usually mature up to this level. Over the years, we may mature up to this reflective level of listening. But what is required is empathetic listening. Empathetic listening means you must know what exactly their background is, what they are, understand them, and then, okay, he is talking to me because this is what it is. So if that is the way you are listening, that is what empathetic listening is. As a leader, empathetic listening is what, if you ask me about strategy and all, empathetic listening is something which you have to develop. And as a leader, not only that, this listening, you have to imbibe that listening, and you have to help your team also to develop this habit of empathetic listening. Now, as a leader, if that has to happen, you have to develop an environment where, that a safe place for honest feedback. Empathetic listening happens only if, a conversation happens. Somebody talks to you and you are giving a feedback. Somebody must feel safe that, okay, I can reveal something to you or something to reveal to my faculty or something like that. Are you creating an environment for that? That is what's so important. Okay, I think I am running overshooting the time. I'll just make it fast. So empathetic listening, I'll tell you there are some techniques that you can do even if for empathy. What you have to do is that you have some student interviews and focus groups that you can do. I have done a focus group interview with around 300 to 500 students on different occasions, and I found out that what is the biggest problem that they face when they are sitting in the class. Student engagement is something which we all are facing a problem, and I identified it and we have implemented it, and now right now it is a success. Students want activity oriented sessions, so we changed the whole curriculum in such a way that activities are more than theory. Thus the effectiveness of the class improved. This happened only because of this empathetic listening. The moment they start criticizing us, and if you are giving something, you are giving a different reply, probably they will not open up. So always have such an environment. And when you define this problem, see, what we did is actually I collated all the data that I got, and then I identified. I simply said student engagement and all, but I clearly identified what exactly the reason behind this student not being engaged in the class. Okay, and that is what I have said. So I'm just touching upon one important aspect. Always we at this particular stage beware of some biases that we have. That is so important. Some biases, starting from confirmation bias. Confirmation bias means what is our belief, we confirm to our belief and we never believe anybody else. We have confirmation bias. We always think of status quo bias. We have an anchoring bias. We usually anchor something. I always make decision based upon some anchors. So in academics that usually happens. I feel that this is the best thing and I anchor everything. When I will say that this student is the best student, and I anchor and I relatively think everybody in that way. Okay, anchoring bias is there. We have something called halo effect. I think if one good feature is there, I will say that everybody, that particular boy or a girl or whoever it may be is good. That affects our leadership. We have decision fatigues. We have, most importantly, self-serving bias. I'm not. Please don't get objected with me. But we all have something called self-serving bias. We believe that we are the best, and whatever we do is for us. And another problem which we all faculties, teachers, or academic fraternity is having is what we call attentional bias. We want always to be in the spotlight. So whatever we do is to gain attention. So these are the biases that usually hinder your empathy process. Mindset, if you ask me, mindset basically works in these areas. When the empathy stage and define stage is perfect, and if you have a beautiful environment there, then the other stages are so easy. Brainstorming is what we have to do. Always have a team of your peer members. Don't take decision. As academic leaders, we always have standard solutions for everything. That's what I said, patterned decision making. So don't do that. Search for anti-patterns. These anti-patterns you will get only if you have a team. So this is what I am telling as a strategy. The team must have diverse set of people. Don't always have your set of in groups with your decision making. Always go without groups. Have people from diverse. We usually have advisory councils and all these people are there. But beyond that, usually in our advisory council, you will have people from academics alone, or maybe some people from the industry, but have diverse people. When you have a pressing problem, have diverse people. Even the stakeholders, including the students, can be there in your team. And think of, this is how you brainstorm. And the solutions, obviously, when you brainstorm, I'll tell you, always look into quantity, not quality. You must nurture an environment where anybody can come out with any view, any weird things they can say. That freedom you must give. Then only they will also open up and give you a lot of points. And then lastly, when you go for prototyping and testing means the decision in academics. Prototyping means you come out with a new curricula and you test with your student, or you come out with a new policy, test with your student or test with your employees. So this has to be co-created. That is so important. Otherwise, you will never get the ownership of it. And these people also will not take the ownership. If it is a co-creation, they will also come with you. Okay, so where we can apply it, I'll stop with this. The last part, where we can apply it, if you embrace design thinking, I'll tell you, you can always enhance your student experience. You can always empower your faculty. You can always, instill what I say, decision making and strategy making well. Okay, institutional decision making and strategy making can be done extremely well. Curriculum innovation can be done, and also as well as your innovative administration can also be done.
How can teachers integrate design thinking into their daily classroom practices?
Uh, um, I must be very clear about it. Is it in your pedagogy, in your curriculum, or is it in your daily teaching practice? Pedagogy in the sense, if you want to have it in, not in the curriculum. In the curriculum means you have to imbibe, weave design thinking each and every stage in your curriculum, whichever subject you are taking, based upon which that we have to sit and plan. Okay. When it comes to design thinking as a pedagogy, okay, the first thing is be empathetic with the students. You must be able to understand what exactly their feelings are. That is what the first thing. The second thing is, if you have that set of a mindset with you, you must be able to always cultivate that mindset in the students also. So you may ask you a question, how I cultivate the mindset. Cultivating mindset is that I'll tell you, today's kids are so smart. So ask them, do activities on this, assign activities, make them more creative. For instance, what I do is that suppose in daily classrooms, I am telling you, suppose max or for example, what I say, uh, physics or chemistry or something, whatever it may be. For some students, that may be so boring. And today I read somewhere, I was just going through something, some newsletter which came to me, in which it has been said that nowadays the distraction time is just 3 minutes. Within 3 minutes, when you are focusing on something, you will get distracted. When you have to come back, it will take around 23 minutes. So imagine when you are in a classroom, this may happen. Okay, so when it is a boring subject, if they feel, that also is an issue. And I always suggest people that if max or something is there, ask them to enact and develop a reel out of it. So they are creative, their mind is working, they are into it, and altogether they are having a mindset. Coming out with a reel, and they are into. So you are to the generation. I cannot say no to anything. A mobile phone, we can bring out policies saying that you cannot use a mobile phone in the school or mobile phone in the classroom or something like that. But over a period of time, you cannot restrict it, because these are the generations which are born with mobile phones. So you can't restrict them. So how creatively we can use all these technologies is important. ChatGPT we can't restrict. So how creatively we can make ChatGPT? Generative AIs, all the generative AIs, we cannot restrict them. So how can we creatively use this? For that, we need this design thinking mindset. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir, for that. We have another question here. Do all team players need to practice design thinking to become effective in a school?
That's what I am telling. Please take it as a mindset. My whole session was focusing on the mindset. Design thinking mindset have to be developed by everyone. You have to take it, Deliberately, you have to develop it. That's what I have to say. If the leader has got that mindset, definitely you can lead. I agree to that. You can lead and you can basically bring the group with you. But there is always, we always say that there are problems with groups. When you are in a group, sometimes, there is something called a group, what I say, free riders we may have, and some consensus, group consensus may happen. For example, if one or two people leads it and everybody will say that, okay, 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 I also agree with that. These are some problems that happens when you are in a team. Most of the people will be silent. When you give group activity to the students, you know what happens. Few of them are free riders and two or three may work hard. So in a team, when you are leading a team, always nurture this design thinking mindset. Make them aspirational. Keep policies in such a way that each and every team member in your faculty must feel like aspirational. And don't give targets which are never achievable. Give targets or give something incentives that are achievable, and always keep them in that growth mindset. Unless otherwise, these are the ways in which you get motivation. Unless otherwise you do that, they will never reach that growth aspirations. Once they are in the track, then they will move towards the growth aspiration that will be there. Then the mindset will be developed, and they will tell this to the students also. Okay, I hope I answered the question.
Yes, sir. Yes. So is design thinking possible without training for principals and administrators?
If you ask me, design thinking learning, if you want to learn the process and all, it's so easy. There are a lot of materials available on the net. You can read it and understand the process. But I always advise at least attend one training session anywhere, one training session to know how it is being applied. Because books will give you different perspectives. In fact, if you ask me, yeah, there are different models of design thinking we have. And the most widely used design thinking model is the Stanford D School design thinking model. Uh, in fact, if you ask me, I have modified that model. And there are different institutes across the globe. When you look into Tim Brown, he is having an IDEO, is a design thinking institute. IDEO is uses a different model. And there are different authors using different models. In fact, there is one person in our India, he is actually working, he was working with IIT Madras or something. He uses a new design thinking called karmic design thinking. He used Buddhist principles into it. And if you ask me, I usually use behavioral theories into that because it is usually behavioral oriented. So at least attending one training session will give you an edge over the topic. That's what my advice is.
Thank you, sir, for that. We have another question here. If the leader has growth mindset, but team has fixed mindset, what is the way out?
That's a interesting question. This again happens in a lot of places. In a lot of places. As a leader, if you ask me, one simple answer I have is try to inculcate fixed mindset in them. And I'm damn sure if you just observe the group, there will be only one or two people who are hindering the journey of others. I'll, I don't know whether I'm right. Remove the weeds. That is better. That also is a job of a leader.
So you mentioned about the experience for growth mindsets. How can leaders
Yes.
do it for employees and students?
Employees or students again. See, one of the biggest problem as a teacher, I always have this challenge, especially when I am postgraduate teacher. You just imagine they have 20 years or 21 years they have been living. But the biggest challenge that we face is that whenever we give them an activity, whenever we discuss with them something, lack of exposure. So in students and all, what you have to do is that there are different ways. Traveling is something which I told you, but there are limitations for that method. What you can do is that you can make them watch, you can actually give them assignment or something, or you can ask them to, don't have a room and ask them compulsorily to sit and watch some videos and all something. That won't work. What you have to do is that in their informal situation, when you are having an informal chat or something like that, you create an environment where you just ask them, okay, when you come tomorrow, this, please watch this video, and you have to share this with all the students in your class. This actually enhances their ownership. So what happens is you are giving them different videos. It may be about instances, it may be about events happening, it may be about a news, or it may be about a place, whatever it may be. You try to give this. What happens is that they gradually gain knowledge, exposure. This is an experience they are getting, and you must be let the student talk, and you must also be there for debriefing. When you debrief, you must know what exactly is your intention. Whatever we give, there is an objective. Okay, so that debriefing can help them. This is one easiest method. And I see one more question: is educational tour really help in developing the positive mindset? Educational tour, by this way, I don't say that educational tour, usually people go for enjoyment. So they will have a bonding with themselves. And again, I usually do it when I go with students, when I am going with them, even if it is a leisure trip and all something, when I go, what I do is that I usually take them and show them that, see, this is what it is. Some sort of learning that I try to give everywhere. It is not like a classroom learning, but I try to give some sort of learning that is an exposure. And again, I'll tell you, it is not so easy for us to, if you have a class of 60 or if you have a class of 100, it is not so easy for you to develop a growth mindset in all the 100. So you must have a fixed set of people. We usually say that you use the principle of 80-20 rule, or the principle of contagious. There is a book called Contagious, Law of Few. You identify people who can influence others. Pick them and give them the exposure and make them spread the knowledge to others. These are the tactics that we can use.
Thank you, sir, for that. I'll take up one more last question. Is there a questionnaire to find out if the team is prepared for design thinking?
There is no such questionnaire prepared. I usually start all my sessions administering the questionnaire which I told you, Carol Dweck's fixed mindset and growth mindset, and I will tell them in what level they are. Okay, and then I'll just and in my experience is that once they know what level they are in, normally during the sessions and all, at least it's a psychology, they will try to prove otherwise, and that itself is a learning for them. And I will just share with one instance. I have been training one set of dealers, okay, LPG dealers. I was just doing, and I was administering the questionnaire. And one person had a very low score. That is, he is having a fixed mindset, and it was there. And throughout the activity, I was just observing him. What I found is that he was the person who was so negative. Initially, he was not able to even move from his seat. He was very reluctant. But slowly what happened is that the group pressure and the group inertia which came, and at the end of the 3 days, it was a 3-day session. Third day, when we asked for feedback from the participants, he was the first person who came a feedback and told me that I was the person who had this, and I understood what my problems are, and slowly I will change, and I'm trying to change some insights we got. So this is how you can tackle it.